estrogen treatment is irreversible and would make Josie sterile. But Josie and her mother never doubted it was the right thing until an unexpected conversation happened one afternoon.
But on the inside, where nobody else can see?
Yeah.
Are you a boy or are you a girl?
Maybe I'm a boy inside and a girl outside.
Really?
Yeah, is that true?
Only you know the answer to that. So if you wanted to grow up to be a man,
Yeah.
would you tell me?
Yeah.
Hey, if you wanted to grow up and be a man, you could.
I want to be... Sometimes I think I'm a boy, sort of, but I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Will you love me if I'm a boy?
Of course. I would love you no matter what. I always have, and I always will.
It was the first time Vanessa ever heard Josie sound uncertain.
I feel like maybe there's a part of you that's afraid to tell me what you really want. What if I said, oh, please don't be a girl?
Well, I guess I'll be a boy.
No, honey.
I need to listen to you, my mom.
That last clip was of a 10-year-old boy named Sadie Croft. Josie was actually the fake name that was used for this TV special. Sadie was clearly showing signs of uncertainty towards the idea of transitioning. And to me, at least, it seems very clear that Sadie's mother was having undue influence on Sadie's decision to transition. Nonetheless, that was a video of Sadie at 10 years old. And as of today, Sadie is a 21-year-old trans woman. So Sadie did go through with the transition. And seeing stories like this is what has inspired me to do this video today. So many children are being unduly influenced into transitioning. And I want to talk about those influences as well as the harm that it's causing to children. Because it is, despite the fact that people say that it's not. Hello everyone, if you are a new viewer, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If this is your second, third, fourth, fifth time watching one of my videos and you have not yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I have a goal of getting to 50,000 subscribers and I'm almost there, so help your girl out and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But now, let's get into the show that is transgender ideology. Well, actually first, let me just back up and define transgender ideology. In simple terms, transgender ideology can be defined as claims that each person has a gender identity, an internal sense of gender, which may or may not align with their biological sex. Previously, if someone's gender identity did not align with their biological sex, we would have called that gender identity disorder. Gender identity disorder has traditionally been defined as a disorder diagnosed by a clinician in which a person's biological sex causes significant distress or impairment due to incongruence between their gender expression and their actual gender. However, some transsexuals were unhappy with the label of gender identity disorder because it had the word disorder in it, and they did not want to be seen as mentally ill.
You're crazy. I'm not. No, I'm not.
So around 2013, the decision was made to change the DSM, which stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, to replace gender identity disorder with gender dysphoria. This new term, gender dysphoria, was seen as less stigmatizing, and that is very important because we all know that feelings are more important than facts.
I'm not afraid to hurt your feelings. They have like a 2-second rebound rate and you're back doing the next pain in the ass thing.
And so while gender dysphoria is still listed in the DSM-5, according to the NHS, gender dysphoria is not a mental illness. Now fast forward to 2023, and this thing that was formally recognized by doctors as a disorder is being glorified and presented on a platter to children. And you see it everywhere. You see it in places like kids shows.
Pronouns are they, them.
Thanks. I'm Sam. I'm she, they.
TikTok.
But you don't look gay. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, let me just...
I'm not like other boys. I'm not even a boy. I'm a girl.
Green, green girls, blue, blue sky. School. school.
I wanted to introduce you to a new friend in our class. Well, this, Huckleberries, is my friend Nash. So Nash, just like me, is non-binary. So they aren't sure if they're a boy or a girl.
Parents.
Does your mom say you have to be LGBT? No, I can choose what I want to be, but
Go ahead, Lex. Go ahead. Keep talking. Say what you're saying.
My mom doesn't matter if I am gay or lesbian or any of that. She doesn't care. All she cares about is that I'm a part of it.
And peer groups, especially peer groups, where there is undeniably a social contagion effect, but trans activists don't like for people to say that. They say if you acknowledge that social contagion is happening, that's bigotry. They don't know how to say I was wrong, so instead they say bigotry. If you're in an argument with someone who's like a far leftist and they call you a bigot, it's because you're winning.
No, you're right.
The Williams Institute conducted a survey in 2022, and the survey estimates that there are currently 1.6 million people in the U.S. who identify as transgendered. And of those people who identify as transgendered, 300,000 of them are between the ages of 13 and 17. And if you look at the results of the 2017 survey, and you compare it to the results of the 2022 survey, the number of youth who identify as transgendered has doubled. Are you shocked? Because I'm not shocked. Are you shocked? I'm not shocked.
That was unexpected.
This study did not identify the biological sex of the youth who identify as transgendered, but I highly suspect a disproportionate amount of them were young girls, because social contagion is known to affect young girls more than it affects young boys, and I found this video which touches on that point.
Overwhelming evidence that this is a social contagion issue, particularly with girls who are more susceptible to social contagion. We've seen that in other spheres, not just with transgender research, but in things like in the 1990s, sort of the abuse scare, where a lot of girls were having false memories of having been abused because girls are just very susceptible to that for various reasons. So now there's a new study that has come out, and this one came out of Northwestern, a researcher there, Dr. Michael Bailey. And basically everything he found backs up what Littman found in 2018. So he based his study on a parent's website where they were sharing their concerns about their children who were going through gender dysphoria. And this was the largest sample ever used. So when he looked at it, he found, once again, not only was social contagion the key factor in what was driving these mostly young women, they were hearing that 60% of the young women in this study had a friend who also came out as transgender.
Wow. Okay.
So that's fascinating. And then the other really big key finding was that most of these girls had other mental health issues that they were dealing with, whether it was anxiety, depression, someone in their life having committed suicide, just these sort of mental distresses that other normal adolescents might not be experiencing. And they've been experiencing it for, on an average, about 4 years. So this was an ongoing issue.
So I have a little bit of a personal story. Well, I have two that I want to share. I have a relative who is currently in grade 8, and every now and then when I visit him, he tells me stories about what's going on at his school. And he's told me stories about these 3 girls in his class who all 3 of them apparently identify as transgender or non-binary. I don't know. He says that they can't make up their minds and they're constantly changing if they're trans or non-binary. And to me, honestly, that does sound like female behavior, not being able to make up your mind. But anyways, they had a gym class, and during gym class, the teacher said, all the boys to the left, all the girls to the right, and so the whole class separated, except for the 3 girls, and they stood there in the middle of the gym, and the teacher was looking at them like, okay, why didn't you pick a side? And the girls said, oh, we're non-binary, so that's why we didn't go with the boys, and that's why we didn't go with the girls, because we're non-binary. And the teacher's like, whatever, pick a side, I don't care. Go to a side. I don't care. Just pick one. So 2 of the girls go with the girls, and then one of the girls goes with the boys. Now, the whole reason that I bring up this story is just to demonstrate how social contagion is happening in the schools. The statistical probability that all three of them are experiencing gender dysphoria, very unlikely. And the thing that really bothers me is that this particular school district, and quite frankly, many school districts across Canada and the US and probably in other countries, have a policy that if something like this is going on in the school, so children who are saying that they are transgender, they're non-binary, they're having gender dysphoria, whatever, the parents are not allowed to know about it. The schools have policies that say, don't tell the parents. By the school not allowing the parents to know that this is going on, they are denying the parents the ability to address the other mental health issues that really might be what's affecting the children. I really want to see more parents stand up to this, because regardless of how you feel about gender ideology, about the trans movement, you as a parent deserve to know what is going on at your child's school. So my second story is about the same relative who is in grade 8. And in grade 8, the school does start doing sexual education. You know, as a parent, you get the form saying, do you consent for your child to participate in the sex ed classes? And my relative said, no, I don't want my child to participate in these classes. I want to be able to educate my child myself on these issues. However, one day, the school had a presentation where a trans man came in. So this is a biological woman who is now presenting as a man. So this person came in to talk about transitioning. They talked about how they're more happy now that they've transitioned. They talked about the procedures, and they essentially glorified transitioning to these young children. I do think it's interesting that the school chose to have a trans man come in and do the presentation. Trans man being a biological woman, especially when you consider that a disproportionate amount of the young people who are transitioning are young girls. So I thought it was quite interesting that they made that choice. Just saying. But the part about this story that I really want to drive home is that my relative sat through this presentation, despite the fact that his mother has sent the form back saying that she does not want him participating in these types of classes. So I informed her of what he told me, because she didn't know. He didn't want to tell her because he was afraid of how she would respond. So I snitched and I told her, sorry, I'm a snitch. So I told her, and she reached out to the teacher, and she's like, I signed this form saying that I did not want my child to participate. And he's come home and he's told me that he sat through a presentation about transitioning. And the teacher basically responded and said that, oh, this was a part of a different curriculum. This was something else. It's not a part of sex ed. It's a part of a different curriculum. How is a transsexual person coming in and talking about sex reassignment surgery not a part of sexual education?
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
So essentially, the school had these consent forms and ignored them because of a technicality that they created. When schools practice this level of deceit and secrecy, they make it very hard to believe that they have the children's best interest at heart. I am 100% on board with teaching young people about tolerance and acceptance of people who are different from them, but I don't see that that is what's going on right now. This is something completely different. It seems more like there is an agenda to push young people down the path of transitioning and becoming medicalized people for the rest of their life. And you would think that because the schools and the government say that they want to protect trans youth, then there would be at least a clear-cut way to diagnose someone with gender dysphoria. But there isn't. I spent some time doing research on the big medical sites like, the Mayo Clinic and the NHS, and when you actually read how they diagnose gender dysphoria, essentially the doctor sits down with the patient explains to them, oh, by the way, doctor, I have gender dysphoria. And then the doctor says, okay, sure, yeah, here, let me write you a prescription. That's basically how it's done. The doctors just affirm. Imagine if everything in life was that easy, honestly. Like, I would go to the bank tomorrow, and I would say, hi there, my name's Beyonce, and I would like to make a large withdrawal, and then I'd live happily ever after. There is no standardized way to test for gender dysphoria. This is literally like the only medical condition that I know of that the patient is the one who diagnoses themselves. In doing my research, I came across a doctor by the name of Dr. Natalia Zikariva. Her name is really hard to pronounce, but not only is her name hard to pronounce, this woman looks like a villain. And she also happens to be a clinical psychologist who specializes in treating transgendered and non-binary adults. She is very pro-transition, obviously, because that's her job. She has written books. She has a YouTube channel. She has a TikTok page. She's, written articles. She's very active in the trans movement. And even she herself acknowledges that there is no standardized way to diagnose gender dysphoria.
If you look at the DSM criteria for gender dysphoria, it is very, very subjective, based on your subjective experience toward your gender. And that's the key here. There is no psychological test a person can give you in order to diagnose gender dysphoria.
And I want to elaborate that just because there is not currently a standardized test to diagnose gender dysphoria does not mean that it is impossible to create one. Take, for example, a few weeks ago, I was watching the Lex Fridman podcast, and one of his guests was Dr. Curry. She was actually the doctor who participated in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
My dog stepped on a bee.
And so she is the one who diagnosed Amber Heard with borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. And on the podcast, Dr. Curry goes very in-depth about the test that she gave to Amber Heard. Now, she doesn't talk about the answers that Amber Heard gave, but she talks about how the test is designed. And so this test is designed not only to diagnose someone with a disorder, but it also is designed to pick up if someone is malingering. And malingering is a word, a medical word, used to describe someone who's basically a liar. Basically, they're lying. This is someone who is trying to fake their illness for some type of gain. So this test is so sophisticated that it can even single that out. So the fact that this standardized test exists, this is something that was developed by clinicians. The fact that this test exists to diagnose this type of mental disorder, why haven't they created one to diagnose people who have gender dysphoria? I'm just saying. Call me paranoid, but to me that seems intentional. If the bar to diagnose gender dysphoria is basically non-existent, then doctors and big pharma can get rich off of the backs of people who are going to eventually regret their transition. And these same people, when they have health problems, big pharma is going to be able to make more money off of them. And the doctors are going to be able to make more money off of them because they're going to have to treat them to correct the health problems that are caused by the transition. This is why I'm so passionate about this issue, because this movement is targeting children despite the fact that there is not a proper way to diagnose gender dysphoria, and a misdiagnosis can lead to a lifetime of regret and health problems. The problem with basing a diagnosis and irreversible treatment on someone's feelings, no matter how deeply they are felt, is that people's feelings can change. And more, people are speaking out about the negative side effects that they have experienced as a result of their transition. Take, for example, an 18-year-old boy who passed away due to complications as a result of his surgery to get a neo-vagina. So this boy had been put on puberty blockers from a very young age. And when you put a young boy on puberty blockers, his genitalia does not fully develop. So when you become an adult, and if you choose to have surgery to get a neo-vagina, the doctors will use the skin from your genitalia. But if your genitalia has not fully developed, then there's not enough skin. And that is what happened to this boy. So at the age of 18, when he wanted to transition, there was not enough skin. So what they did was they took tissue from his bowels and they used that tissue to create the neo-vagina. And ultimately, the boy passed away because he had a bacterial infection because of this experimental procedure. Another side effect is male pattern baldness and a deeper voice. If you are happy with your transition, this may not bother you, but a few months ago, a young woman went viral because she shared a story about how unhappy she was with the results of her transition.
I got out of my haircut because my hair was driving me nuts, and I shaved it because I'm tired of watching my hair thin out, and it's less distressing if I shave it. So when I talk about being too far gone, I don't really know what else to call it. This is what I mean. This is how deep my voice is. It's gotten deeper over time, and it's settled. This is what I mean by hair loss, and it just keeps getting worse. It keeps thinning. It keeps receding backwards. You know, and I'm not exactly sure that's coming back. Those are the main things when I talk about being androgenized to a point of no return. I really don't see those being fixable. So that's when I talk about, you know, just kind of staying how I am, regardless of how I feel. That's why, just because I don't really see me personally being able to come back from what's happened so far. So I hope that's a little explanatory.
Another young girl who has gone viral and is actually suing Kaiser Permanente is Chloe Cole. Chloe Cole began her transition at 13 years old, and at that time she was put on puberty blockers, she had double mastectomy, she was given cross-sex hormones, and by the age of 16, she made the decision to detransition, and she has become very, very vocal about the negative side effects that she has experienced. And one of the saddest parts about Chloe Cole's story is that all of this could have been avoided had she been properly diagnosed. So after having detransitioned, it actually turned out that Chloe was on the spectrum. So she has autism. And that was the reason that she was feeling uncomfortable and having a hard time relating to the other girls in her school. Not because she had gender dysphoria. And I really wonder how many young girls out there are in the same boat as Chloe, but they have not gotten the proper diagnosis. In any event, here is a clip of Chloe Cole discussing her lawsuit against Kaiser Permanente.
I have 2 giant scars across my chest that remind me every day that I was butchered by the institutions that we all thought we could trust. I went to my surgeon because I was desperate for answers, and he just told me, "It's fine. That's completely normal. Just put Vaseline over it," which didn't make sense to me, but I thought that because nothing else was working, I might as well try it. That gave me a skin infection. It hasn't healed at all, and the wound, whatever it is actually spreading across my chest. I have no clue what's going on. I have nowhere to turn because I no longer have any trust in Kaiser Permanente, and I can't afford treatment out of pocket. I wish I could have my breast back, but a reconstruction may be riddled with even more complications, and no matter what, I will never be able to breastfeed my future children. Those organs are gone forever.
Other side effects caused by the long-term use of hormones include blood clots, heart problems, stroke, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high levels of potassium in the blood. But wait, there's more.
This is a letter to young transitioners. If you are about to transition, especially if you are underage, please listen to this. First of all, you cannot change your sex. Take it from someone who has tried. You cannot. There is no such thing as trans periods. Trans women do not experience any of those symptoms. You won't grow a dick when you start T. You won't grow mammary glands or ovaries or a uterus on estrogen. You will have to be on hormone replacement therapy for the rest of your life, no matter how this goes, whether you remain transitioned or not, to stay on your path. The side effects are severe. I feel like only detransitioners really talk about the harmful and irreversible effects of cross-sex hormones, but the side effects affect trans people who don't detransition as well. There are irreversible mental, physical, and emotional changes, most of which are permanent, and more severe the younger treatments are started and the longer you undergo them. Some of these side effects include being permanently misshapen by muscle and fat redistribution, which causes disproportionate features. This literally means being the wrong shape forever, and being disproportionate causes clumsiness and even chronic pain, and because your original frame might not be able to support the new distribution of muscle and fat. There is no treatment for this. Another severe side effect is infertility. I didn't care about this until it was too late. I was swindled by the idea that it didn't matter or that I could freeze my eggs, a mere $150,000, and now I might not be able to have my own children, severely limiting my dating pool and my future altogether. On top of losing your fertility, your sex drive will change with hormones, and that's not even mentioning surgery. It might become crazy or it might go away completely, but it will be unstable. Sex will be different forever as well. If you are FTM, it will hurt. badly. You won't be able to self-lubricate, your enlarged clit will be too sensitive and painful to touch, and eventually atrophy won't allow for penetration. You will never get off of the conveyor belt. It will keep going, and more of you will be mutilated and chopped off and incinerated until the old you is gone, and you still have to deal with all your original problems and traumas. This is just in a different body that isn't functional anymore. Transition is not a cure for puberty. It's not a cure for feeling bad about yourself. No child is born in the wrong body. Permanently medically altering your body won't bring you peace or euphoria.
It's not beautiful. Trans is not beautiful, and it can be a very difficult space to be in. And I suffered from long-term problems with my female reproductive system, because when I started to take the hormones and I started getting cramps and all these things, and nobody could help me. I would go to a gynecologist and they would call me a freak, and I would go to a doctor and they'd be like, I can't look at you, you're a weirdo. I mean, I got all kinds of stuff. I mean, so eventually the pain became a horrible problem, and my uterus and my cervix fused together. And it's the first recorded case in the history of the world, and the long-term use of testosterone took my uterus and took my cervix and put it together, and as you know, that's a sort of self-cleaning oven. And it just stopped, and what happened was I got an infection, which eventually, after 3 years of trying to go to doctors and saying, help me here, none of them could help me. They're like, oh, that's normal, that's just cramping, that's just normal cramping. And I'm like, no, it isn't. I got septic and I popped. Wow. And I became septic, and I got to the hospital in enough time that the doctor could actually save my life. Yeah. And he said, if you didn't come in 2 more minutes, you would be dead. And so I sit here and I'm emotional and cry, because you need to understand that it's not always so positive. And there are, I don't even know the other effects that 30 years of testosterone on my body has done to my body. I know it has changed my brain. I know that there are things going on with me that I'm sure are affected by the testosterone. But again, we don't have the research.
And then there is the shit show that is bottom surgery. And many people who go through bottom surgery, even if they don't regret their transition, they acknowledge that they now have genitalia that is not fully functioning.
2 years ago, I got gender reaffirming surgery. Here's a fucking honest update. Do I regret it? Short answer is yes. Don't get me wrong, I got it done twice. It looks Barbie. Why do I regret it? Well, because I will never be able to live a normal life. After the surgery, you have to start dilating to keep the space they gave you. You start from doing it 4 times a day to once a week for the rest of your life. I was fine with that. See, the problem is I had major complications, and now for some reason, I need to do it every single fucking day. Now, obviously, I've had relations, and girls, we all know, guys don't know what to do. So it's not really worth it to me. The problem is I cannot stop. If I stop, it's gonna close up and create a bubble, and that bubble could literally create an infection that could... The 2 options here are I dilate for the rest of my life, or I get it removed surgically. Surgery goes for $70,000, and I don't want to go through that again, so I guess I'm dilating.
If you got any value from this video, please share it with someone that you think will get value from it too. And if you would like to help me and support this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, because when you hit the like button, it does help me in the algorithm. And I would like to hear from you guys. Have you guys experienced children in your life who claim that they are trans and non-binary? And what do you think is influencing those children that you know? And how do you feel about this movement as a whole? Please let me know in the comment section down below. And if you would like to follow me on my social media platforms, I also have Instagram. So my Instagram handle is NissCee.Social. And if you want to support my channel, another way that you can do it is by hitting the subscribe button. It's free. And if you want to support my channel monetarily, I did start a Patreon account, and I have the link for that in the description box down below. A lot of times when I do content like this, my videos get either limited monetization or no monetization, and I do work very hard on these videos. I do a lot of research, so if you appreciate what I do and you want to support me and what I stand for, I do have a Patreon account, so I hope you consider supporting me. And if you would like to see more videos just like this, I have 2 more videos for you in the end cards of this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.